Hello, everyone. Today, I would like to talk about love some more. The last few videos have focused on love on Patreon. And honestly, the most commonly asked questions any astrologer is going to receive throughout the duration of their career is going to be around love and money. So in the spirit of the month of Valentine's Day and happy full moon in Leo to those that celebrate, Leo is a really good sign for partnership. So I figured that we would discuss and continue our love series and discuss another insight into what you can pinpoint about romance for yourself and an additional descriptor for your partner. Now, on that topic as well, and to atone for the fact that I've been away for most of 2025 dealing with family matters, I have decided to place my most popular reading on my Etsy shop, Guru Good Astrology on Etsy, called Love and Spouse Description Reading, on a massive sale just to karmically make up for not being present. And yeah, so that goes on sale today, and it's on sale for the whole month from February 1st till the 28th. So if you want a refresher, if you want one, know someone who wants one or would like one, go for it. So that's going to be on sale from the 1st throughout the whole month, even after Valentine's Day. And without further ado, let's get into it. So this is called the SWAMSA. So I'm going to show you how to calculate it. Very, very easy. It takes like 2 seconds, and show you some example charts. So let's get into it. So the SWAMSA is going to come from Gemini Astrology, and it will give us additional insights. So we always cover the capacity the person has for relationships. We cover spouse description, the condition of their seventh house, their likelihood to get married, if they have denial of marriage, delay in marriage, and then we actually want to know about the actual person. So this is where something like this comes in, and it is quite helpful. So here goes, right? Here is the SWAMSA. So what is the SWAMSA? I've just told you. So what does it mean? It means seventh from the self. So you can call it the SWAMSA or SWAMSA. And what you do is you'll take the planet that describes you. So my planet is Jupiter. It is the planet with the highest degree in my chart. So that's the Atma Karaka. Karak is to signify, Atman is the soul. So that's me, who I am on a soul level. Okay. One of the names for Jupiter is Guru, hence Guru Grit, because it's an ode to learning. You need grit to learn anything. And then you'll take that planet, the planet that is you, and then you're going to look seventh from that planet. So let's get it. So that's basically all you need to know is those two things. And you don't use the D1 chart. That's very important to note. You're not going to use your birth chart. You're going to use the Navamsha, the D9 chart. So here's our first example, and I'm going to go through all the signifiers. Okay. So what Gemini says about each of them. I don't have an example for each of them, but I'll just verbally tell you. So this is a very cool practical example. This is someone from my life that I know personally. And what I'd like to actually point out is in their D1 chart, this is their D9. You can see here the 9. Okay, so this is the Navamsha. They are a Venus Atmakaraka. And what's opposing Venus is these two. So Gemini doesn't he doesn't really say anything about Venus, so I'll come to that towards the end. But for K2 is generally separation or distance of some kind. So it can indicate divorce. So this person is actually divorced, and they remarried. And what's fascinating is the Mercury here. So unfortunately, they are no longer married to their second spouse because they went home to the creator. But if you see K2 opposite the SWAMSA, it doesn't mean necessarily you're going to be widowed, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be divorced. The spouse, Gemini says, is probably an ascetic. Okay. So somebody who's very, very spiritual. They don't have like, a strong, drive for lust. They're not necessarily very material. Maybe it's the couple that prays together, stays together, or they, care about a common cause, something like that. So they're just not really they're not really easy to pull, let's say, into the day-to-day mundane things about life, unless there's some kind of spiritual initiative, is the way that I would put it. So there's many ways to describe these things. But in this case, this person did divorce their first husband, and then they actually married a divorcee, their second husband. This was both of their second marriages. But what's interesting is the Mercury. Jaiminey describes Mercury as a generally skilled person or an artistically skilled person. And Mercury also governs lawyers. Mercury actually gives lawyers, gives performers, people who are communicative, quite funny, and so he was, her late husband, God rest him, was a funny person, and he's a lawyer, and they're both lawyers. So in a weird way, it kind of worked out, they had a beautiful life together, and yeah, that's pretty interesting. So that's one way to see it. So, I feel it's easier for me to mention that they are divorced and widowed because I know them. But again, I just want to make sure that you understand it doesn't necessarily mean that will go that way for you. You will see widowhood in the D1. And yeah, they have that. So that's all right. So just wanted to mention. So Mercury will give, a spouse, again, that's funny, communicative, sometimes in finance or business or good with money, but a generally skilled person. And they can be very creative also. Okay. So, when I look through the charts of people in the arts, musicians, artists, actors, etc., they often have one of three Atmakarkas. Okay, Jupiter, maybe they're doing it to bring people joy, be really uplifting. Like Robin Williams was a really uplifting individual. I actually don't know his Atmakarka off by heart. Venus, obviously, Venus is the arts, and Mercury is the creator of the arts. So you'll see a lot of musicians and actors have like Mercury Atmakarkas. All right, here we have. Did I skip one? No. Okay. Angelina Jolie is a good example. So she's been married several times, actually. And her SWAMSA, I believe, is Jupiter. Oh, Mercury K2. Sorry. It says it right there. Okay, Mercury K2. Yeah, Mercury Atmakarka. That's it. That's what I was talking about, actors. Okay, so yeah, she has a Mercury Atmakarka. And K2 is, again, she was married to, I think, Johnny Lee Miller. She was married to Billy Bob Thornton, and she was married to Brad Pitt. So she's been thrice divorced, actually. I don't know if there was any engagements or such things in the meantime, but, K2 again signifying separation. So if you saw that in a client's chart, you should suggest that if they'd like to get married and stay married, that they have a spiritual common ground with their partner, not just, like sometimes it's karmic, like the nodes are very karmic. So it could feel like love at first sight and it can really pull you, but it's very important that you stay on that level, that you pray together, you meditate, you have a sadhana, you have a discipline, you go to the masjid, you do something. Okay. That's very consistent. So I don't think so that these marriages were rooted in any such sort of spiritual discipline, but that would have helped. Okay. That probably would have, negated the need for divorce and separation or lack of understanding between one another. And here's another K2 example. And this person, so they're Atmakarka's son, K2's here. They are not divorced, but they are far away from their spouse. So their spouse travels for work, and they were able to do this together while their children were very small. And even though they're not spiritual and they're not religious, this is one of the ways K2 can manifest if you don't have that sort of spiritual tie, is actual physical distance. So talking a lot on FaceTime, Zoom, whatever else. And they're actually living in different countries because the spouse works for the government. So they get sent around the world. And now that their children are growing and they're in their teen years and such, they can't be left unattended, or they're harder to pull around the world with you. The children should never be left unattended unless they're like 25 or something. So yeah, that's one of the ways K2 manifested here is, and it's interesting because Sun is in the 7th of the D9, and that would give a spouse has a dominant or domineering career, something that I have also found with military spouses. So if you're a military spouse and you have this makes sense that your husband or wife's career basically is the overtone of the marriage. Like if you get stationed here or there, you're going as a family. You know, if they're here, then you're moving there and you're living there and you're kind of dependent on them in that sense. So it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be aggressive. And the sun is also quite like, doesn't like to share the spotlight. You'll see this a lot with celebrity couples. You know, that tends to be a bit of a problem, but this is a regular person. Okay. A normal person, I would say. So yeah, so that's how K2 manifested for them. So no one's died and no one's divorced. It's just like circumstantial because of career, because you'll see sun in the seventh and it's weak. Here we have Meghan Markle. This is a really good example. She is also, I believe, on her third marriage. I think her first marriage was like swept under the rug. And then her second marriage was to Trevor something. I don't remember who, like a producer, I think. And they were together for, I think, like 8 years or something like that. And then when she landed her role in Suits here in Toronto, she sent him divorce papers and her wedding rings in the mail and was like, shoo, shoo, shoo. So now we can find this out. We can see, so here we go. Venus at Makarka. Okay, she's a very creative person. So I know a lot of people don't really consider her a very successful actress, kind of like D-list, but that Venus will work. Okay, so even if you're not, a famous actor or something like that, you're still creative. You're still going to be creative. It doesn't actually matter what you do. I read for someone 2 weeks ago, an acquaintance that was like, I moved to the city to become an artist and you're telling me I have a Venus at Makarka and like, I didn't make it. I have like a boring job in retail, blah, blah. But that's not the point. The point is they make art, they make music, they make jewelry, they design tattoos, they do all kinds of things, that people really enjoy. So I would say the same thing in defense of Meghan Markle. She does calligraphy. She has incredible taste and aesthetic. She understands, how to present herself, how to style herself. She's very, very good at that. So that's a very good indicator of a Venus at Makarka. So what is opposite here for her SWAMSA? Again, we have K2. So we know she's divorced, and we know that there was also distance with the second spouse in that the spouse stayed in California while she lived in Toronto, and she was like, I'm not having that. So yeah, that's indicative of divorce. And we also have Mars. Okay, so Mars should give somebody who's it can give athletic people. It can even, Mars indicates redness. So it's sort of funny. It's a very literal interpretation, which is why I had to share, because her current husband, Prince Harry, is a redhead. Okay. So that's very straightforward. Unfortunately, K2 also acts like Mars. And Mars is debilitated in Libra. So I don't know if the current marriage will last. We should look at that in a separate video, although I don't want all these videos to be about breakups during Valentine's Day, but something to consider, okay? So another thing is Jiminy says that Mars gives a woman with impaired limbs, meaning some type of crookedness. So you'll find the spouse could have had a broken bone. This would happen before you meet them. So maybe in childhood, they fell out of a tree and then broke a collarbone or a rib. Perhaps they had surgery, had a skiing accident, fell off a horse, something like that. Or you'll notice there's a crookedness about them. Okay. So I had a friend in middle school who played rugby very well. And by the time we were done high school, she held up her hands like that one day. And I said, I never noticed, like, your ring finger looks sort of weird. And she was like, I've played rugby for like 7 years. Check it out. And all her fingers were sort of like bent from breaking them. So, she went on to meet her husband after high school. So he would have had a woman with impaired limbs. And so if Prince Harry has a very distinct looking nose, it kind of looks not crooked, but it does have a very significant sort of shape to it. That could also indicate something. And if Mars pulls through really, really strong in a description, which it did do one time, I was very surprised. He was kind of across the board in the seventh house, in the D9. He was also the Darakarka. He was in the seventh. He was the SWAMSA. Like, he was sort of all over the place. I said, Mars is also tattoos. And I think that man's going to have a tattoo. And the lady said to me, I don't think so, because, we're very religious and that's forbidden in Islam. And on their first date, they went for tea and like juice. And she said, can I confess something? Like, I went to an astrologer and she said, the person that's intended for me should have a tattoo, but like, we don't really do that, and she was very modest. She was covered. And I don't want anyone commenting that she shouldn't have been going to an astrologer. People do what they want. Okay. And he leaned in and he was like, oh my God, I have sleeves on both of my arms, but they're always covered, so no one can tell. So I thought that was super cool. So anyway, that's Meghan Markle's sort of thing. So again, if you want to reduce the effects of these things, then of course, having a spiritual life to override that would be very helpful, but very good indicator here. And we know that Prince Harry is athletic and such and such. So here we have Elizabeth Taylor. This one's pretty fun. Like I said one time, she's my inspiration. I want to marry as many times as I can, as much as I can. I want to get married as much as I can. She's been married, like 8 times? I think twice to Richard Burton. Her Atmakaraka, my Vishaka queen, is the moon. And again, we have K2 indicating separations, which she's had quite a lot. And Jupiter. And Jupiter is something that Jaimini says gives someone who's a rich in wife. And I believe Johnny Depp has a prominent Jupiter with Venus in his D9 in the 5th house or something like that. I'll have to look at him. We're going to probably do these for divorced people to look at their 2nd and 3rd marriage, because I know now divorce rates are quite impressively high. So we can see, what your 2nd or 3rd marriage is going to look like. So in any case, rich in wife just means more than one spouse. And in the modern age, it doesn't necessarily mean legal marriage. You can have children with 1 or 2 or 3 people. You can live with someone, break up with them, go live with someone else. Long term, 2-3 years, that will qualify. Of course, legal marriage, multiple engagements. Okay, so that's a very Jupiterian interpretation of that. And Jupiter is fortunate in that it will give a good looking spouse. So let's go through the plan. I think that's it really for them, for the charts. But to go through the planets, that's it. So Sun is going to be someone who's from the person's own race, let's say like ethnic group or career. Sun is a career indicating planet. So that's why you'll see with a lot of famous people's charts, like actors and musicians, they can have Sun as a strong indicator because people are drawn to, their own people in their own profession. Or like, if you work in an office, it's much more likely that you'll meet someone that works with you as well. Another thing, or like even career ambitions or aspirations can come through from the Sun. So if you're a very ambitious woman and you meet a man and you have Sun influencing the SWAMSA, he would be supportive of you. He wouldn't be like, oh, that's cute until we get married or until you have kids, or you're only doing that to retire me. He actually wants to see your dreams come true. The moon will give a nurturing, sensitive, emotionally nourishing, above average in attractiveness spouse. So the moon is a pretty good one to have. Like Moon, Jupiter, Venus will give good looking people. So again, Jupiter can give someone who has a humanitarian streak or is interested in causes like good things, like a do-gooder. And again, an attractive individual who's spiritually wise. They can give good advice, good counsel. We covered Mercury. We covered Mars. I also want to mention that I said I would mention Venus at the end. So Jaimini actually doesn't say anything about Venus, but Venus is said to give devoted people that are also really beautiful and sensual and seductive. So if you get a Venus swamsha, it can be considered good rather than having Venus in the 7th house is considered too much energy. It's one of those things that you'll see and on the face, it looks really good, but it can also indicate, infidelity because it attracts too much attention to itself. So, that's for Venus. Yes. And Mercury, again, intellect, clever person, things like that. Then we arrive at Saturn. So Saturn as a swamsha can give an older spouse that maybe has a health condition, a little bit slow in their mannerisms. I'm very expressive. I use my hands a lot. I project my voice very comfortably. I have no issue with that. Saturn would probably be someone who can be just as, articulate, expressive, funny, everything, but their delivery is a little bit more tame. It's more dry, quite scathing sometimes. And Saturn can also give an ascetic like K2. Okay, somebody who's not impressed by the world, does their own thing, really. Just not really easily persuaded. And Saturn's a loner. He doesn't care what anyone thinks and he doesn't want what everyone else wants. Like he had said that he doesn't crave comfort. So he's happy wherever he is. He will make his own amusement and find a way to pass the time. Okay. So just somebody that's not really easy to like charm and manipulate. So that's very good. And age difference is always mentioned with Saturn. So when we say older, Saturn governs 7 to 7.5 years. So you can say roughly 7, 8, 9 years older. Okay. There are exceptions to this where it can flip and invert and give a much younger spouse. But if you just have Saturn on his own, then probably someone older than you, like by however much. Okay. And then we get Rahu. So we covered Ketu quite a lot. So an aesthetic spouse that maybe you have some distance from for whatever reason, either divorce or through work or just circumstantial. Maybe you see this a lot with people who migrate. One person will get a job, they'll go abroad and they'll wait for the sponsorship to kick in for their family. So it can take a few months or a year. It happened to my friend. It took her father 3 years to bring her over and her mom, so it just takes time. It doesn't mean that there's a strife in the marriage. It just means that's just life. That's what K2 has ordained. So that's what's going to happen. Although Gemini, just like Venus, doesn't say anything about K2. So these are just modern interpretations and things that I've learned from looking at things and things that I've learned from my teacher. So that's it. Okay. Rahu's description makes me laugh. It says it's a spouse that's bereft. So a lovesick person. So Rahu tends to give foreigners. It will give someone who's homesick. Okay. They miss their home. They miss their culture. It can also be somebody who is heartbroken. So Rahu can give divorcees, someone that's had a broken engagement, someone that's had, maybe lived with somebody or had a child with somebody and now they're no longer together, but they'd like pin their hopes on that working out because that's a big decision. Moving in, buying property, making babies. Okay. Those are big things. Being engaged. That's a big life, decision. And then it doesn't work out. So when you have Rahu as your SWAMSA, then I could see that and I could say, okay, either like if you're 45, then they've probably been married or had some kids, right? If you're 22, then maybe you're going to meet a foreigner or both. Like it could be a combination of those things. So Rahu gives, that. And then when it's not the best, it would give someone who's still yearning, so maybe you've met them and they are still in that headspace that they're pining for their intended, and it might take some time to shake their thought patterns or like actually recognize you as their soulmate. They might still be thinking of what could have been or in the past, or they're just chronically a lovesick person. I feel like sometimes you get that a lot with like Pisces, Virgo people. Like they are just like in love with this idea. And when they don't see it in real life, it makes them feel ill, So it's not a specific individual. It's just that things don't work out in the way that they had preferred. And it like makes them feel forlorn and sort of melancholy. So if you have a Rahu Swamsha, then I really, really hope it's just someone who's broken up with whatever and they're moved on and that they're just foreign. Okay. So that one's not so bad. Coming from a foreign person, that's all right. I'm okay. I'm good with it. My Swamshas are, I don't know if they're that exciting. Actually, no. Mercury. So maybe someone as chatty as I am, I actually look forward to that very much. Somebody who's very friendly disposition. So thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you on my Etsy. Thank you for being here. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. Email me, gurugritinfo@gmail.com if you have any questions. And yeah, enjoy the series. More love videos to come. And that's it. All right. Bye for now. Thank you.